So, growing up, I did not realize that everybody doesn't actually believe in past lives or see things that I saw, or more so, even in the way that I saw them, right? So it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that not everybody does actually have that inner knowing about their own past lives. And of course, it was obvious that not everybody does believe in reincarnation, but more so on a personal level, considering many of the people I have had close to me in my life, this lifetime, have been well aware that we have had past lives together. And this has been actually discussed on quite a few occasions that I have came into contact with somebody and there is a soul recognition, and even the other person, or in a romantic sense, I have had where even the man said, "Hey, when did you know?" type of thing. So I do understand with many clients that I have had that some of them were raised religiously and they do not believe in reincarnation, but fortunately, any of the clients I have worked with have been very open-minded and they don't shut that idea out. They just are not familiar with their past lives. And I wanted to discuss today how I know at times when a past life or something pertaining to it is valid, because I do also believe in memory inserts that are not accurate or even a false timeline. And another way I can describe it is, you know how in a dream things are different. A person can appear different. Things are not exactly what they look like, right? Well, I feel at times these memory inserts of past lives are not valid. It is kind of giving a story, and sometimes that story may not be true. So I wanted to discuss how I know when it is valid and a couple experiences I've had in more recent years. And another way to describe memory inserts would be in the movie Captain Marvel, because in my eyes, this is also how I kind of see these inserts. Although past lives in general, there is much truth and an inner knowing, and it is absolutely undeniable. And how I know when something is legitimate is, for one, it gives me this emotion that I couldn't control if I wanted to. Tears will just start flowing and flooding out of my tear ducts. I cannot control it. I am not even aware that I'm sad or actually crying. They just start falling out, and it is a recognition of home or a past time period. And we get activated through, we have crystals within us, and we have history and information, all of it and beyond, stored in our DNA. So our DNA can be activated when our energy centers open up, and through the crystals in our body, we can be activated like crystals can be activated. And there are stories all the way through our DNA. The entire history of everything is in our DNA. So I wanted to talk about how in some recent years this has came about to me in a story that has to do with a tattoo and a set of crystals in Sedona. I have tried to record this already at least twice, and I get so emotional talking about these crystals in particular. It's actually kind of frustrating, but past lives and my understanding of them is definitely nothing new to me. But I did not know the extent to which my understanding would be of them down the road. When I first got this tattoo that I picked out when I was 16, when researching, my mom actually told me that she would take me when I was 16, but I waited until I was 18 because I wanted to get it on my own. And I was sure that this is the one I wanted. It was between this symbol and another symbol, and I was sure this was the one, which this symbol actually stood for going back to the past and past lives as well, going back to retrieve information to form the future or to inform the future. And this is symbolism that is derived from ancient tribes and ancient star people as well. So the extent that this went to, I had no idea when I got this. So I do think it would be funny if things we got tattooed on us is what kind of made us. So say that I got this symbol and it gave me these gifts, but ultimately I know that there is a reason I got this, and subconsciously. And tattoos also a big part of my past lives as well. And I was also very well aware of that at a very young age. So I definitely did find that interesting. I just did not know to the extent. There is so much to this story that I couldn't possibly even get into, especially about tattoos. But basically, I did not know when I got that tattoo that I would have the access that I do have to past lives, which honestly doesn't touch how far they really go. And I do understand that now, and why some people do not remember their past lives. And there's also a difference in age and, soul age, how many incarnations you've had, where you've been reincarnated. And some past life memories are from our ancestors alone. But I definitely want to get into the story about the crystals, because this does have to do with ancient civilizations as well. And there are times throughout our life, or many times on the regular, if there are things that feel familiar to you or remind you of something, and you just know there's a reason why you were drawn to certain types of music or objects or people or certain things, a lot of times these are indicators of past lives or simply being on another timeline. And when we go around places or objects or people that are a part of one of our past timelines, or they're here to activate this part of our crystals or our DNA, this is when we are called towards certain things and people, especially, which in this case I was called to this particular shop I was going to in Sedona. I was going to get a crystal for one of my tuning forks. So I don't actually do a lot of work with crystals, but I needed one for this. So I did go in the shop. I picked one out, and while I was in there, I felt called, I wanted to ask her about this specific type of crystal if they had any there. So I did pick out the one I needed, but there is another type of crystal I had been into recently, and this has to do with where I know I'm from in ancient times, etc., to an extent. So I asked the woman, hey, do you have any of these type of crystals there? I didn't know what the chances of them having this crystal would even be. And even though I know most of the shops there, like at the back of my hand, I hadn't been into this one before. So I asked her and I said, do you have this kind of crystal here? And she was like, yes, we do. Come over here. And she shows me this big, beautiful crystal, and I'm just amazed by it. But she goes, come look at this little case over here as well. We have all these little ones, and this is the same case that I just took the crystal out from, the same exact section spot. That is one of the ones I picked out. It was a mini version of this type of crystal. And she picked up one that was next to the one that I had picked out and I had in my hand, and it was 1.5 of them. And she was telling me how these are grown together, and this represents a twin soul. Way more to the story and what comes in the future about the twin soul and the crystal that is absolutely out of this world. It is completely beyond the most basic twin story. This goes so deep and so far back. I cannot even tell you what ends up happening right now in this story. I do want to talk about my confirmation of the past life and area, and how this will resonate. Like when we go to certain places, say you are drawn to go to a particular country or a ancient site or type of land, there are energies there often, or types of crystals or gems. There is a frequency of land that can activate us, and you may be aware that ancient sites hold a very specific, very strong type of frequency, and we are all born with our own personal, one-of-a-kind frequency that matches no other person's on this planet when we are born. But when you have what you have in your DNA and the crystals inside your body, and the crystals activate that, this can change things or open up energy centers for you as well. So you don't have to actually visit the ancient site that you may be called to visit for this to happen necessarily. You can actually do this in the peace of your own home, or even in your backyard. There are ways to activate this without actually going to the sites, but it can be a really nice way to get activated. So as I was saying, sometimes objects alone can activate this. And this is one of the strongest ways that I was proven this, was after she showed me the one big crystal, and then we went to the case, and I had just actually picked out a mini version of that type of crystal, which was pretty cool, right? But then she walked me over to this one by the door, and the second we walked up to it, I stood there, and it just started, tears just started flooding from my eyes, like, I mean, just falling onto the carpet. And she saw it, and she knew, and I could just feel it in my heart. And she turned around, and I was like, I don't know. She knew, and I knew, and she knew, and I knew. So I had to stop. No matter how many times I tell this story, trying to record this, I cannot get this out. But I do want to share this with anybody who does resonate with this and is interested in finding out more about their past lives, because many of us, I want to say most people, have absolutely had past lives, and in areas of ancient civilizations, and there are many, many ways I have been shown this throughout my life, throughout Egypt and other areas that I really don't want to give too many details of my own story on here. But my advice, if this is something that you are looking to seek into, is that the information is always inside of you, and all of it. And your ancestors as well, that information is also held within you. So I have met people who wish that their grandparents were still alive because they knew stuff. All of that really truly is within you. And in this case, another one of my past lives, so these crystals were actually from an area in South America, and this is a very significant time period of my past life as well. So she was telling me how crystals are libraries of information and hold plenty of stories of information, which was quite clear because this all came to me as soon as I walked up to this particular one, especially, although all three of them, but two of the three were incredibly powerful. It was overbearing. It was far, far too much. And much of the information I have gotten throughout my past lives has simply came to me. So when you are looking for information, it is good to ask, but to listen. Just like I was drawn to go to that specific crystal shop I hadn't been to for this information, right? You can ask the universe and it will come to you. I personally, when I'm looking for information in meditation, it doesn't work as well for me. Any things, any people, any of the information I have been called to, besides a situation like this right now, has all came to me, especially Egypt. The way Egypt came to me was absolutely out of this world. Okay, I cannot deal with that dreadful tone anymore. So it is another day that I am finishing this video. I have tried recording this, as I said before, a few times, and I cry every single time, which goes to say that I also do have more to talk about these crystals, because there's another story with this same exact set of crystals in the future. But I do want to add in here first that when you are looking to receive information, I personally have not been searching for information when these things happen. So in this case, yes, I did go to a crystal shop needing a clear quartz crystal originally, and ended up on this journey and all of this information. But typically throughout my entire life, this information will just come to me. So when I am trying to meditate or find information in other ways, it does not work well for me, or I am not trusting of it many times, or things happen like memory inserts. So in this case, what has happened, as an example, is one time I had contacted somebody from another past life soulmate, which we were both aware that we had known each other in past lives as well. So I sent them a meme, right, or something. And when this person responded to me that day, same thing. I started getting flooded with memories and flashes and full-length video type scenes, like clips of past lives. And I mean, it absolutely overbearing. Okay, it's unmanageable even at times. And this is how things get activated, but this is what in some ways would consider some of these a memory insert. So this also happened to be during a week that I was especially doing a lot of inner child meditation and healing this week for myself. So I was going deep, deep within the shadow work and the inner child. I was focusing especially on this for quite a few days in a row. This was the same week that I contacted this person, and some of the scenes that I was getting, some scenes had seemed to be putting together stories of other clips I had gotten in other times of my life and when I was with this person or around them. But other clips and scenes seem to be showing me what I came to the conclusion of abandonment wounds. And this was the week I was doing inner child healing, especially. So, my point with that is, that sometimes we are shown things and information and guided to certain things to show us something indirectly, in a sense. Sometimes it is not exactly what it appears to be. So I did mention that, I believe, in the beginning of this video. That is what I consider somewhat of a memory insert. I typically am not seeking information. This does just come, and we are here to remember. It doesn't seem like it at first, right? We have amnesia, and we will encounter things throughout our life that will draw us to things that will remind us and show us not only where we came from, but what our purpose is here to do. So what I am also saying is that when this information does come to you, you do have an inner knowing. And when you do ask for information, I would say to be cautious of anything that is coming from external sources, because you do know, and these answers are within. So in this case, I happen to be looking for a crystal for something else and asked about these crystals, and I got flooded with information. And typically throughout my life, much of the information that has came to me was brought to me without me ever questioning anything. I have had this happen very much throughout my life, but this shows that the people that we do come into contact with, and experiences and objects and places, can activate these memories within us. And also sometimes this is activation to give us a sort of energy or power from a past life, or something that was passed down to us, for something that we need to use for our purpose in this lifetime. So anybody who has dealt with any past life soulmates on any level knows this as well. Sometimes we are brought together with people for an activation, and sometimes these activations happen from just passing somebody who also has this type of energy within them too. So I picture a lot of this life in this sense, kind of like a game like Zelda, where you go through all these adventures and journeys in the woods and places, and you come across these magical objects and codes and secrets and all this, magical stuff that you can use this information for progression, but you will definitely have to go through some battles, right? And then, you have to keep getting that life force power, where all the hearts of, the life, his battery life, I guess, but, throughout the game and each level. And this is how I view much of this life on earth being like. And we are here to remember, and for a purpose. And once we learn that purpose and we lose the 3D life that we have accumulated in this lifetime, and we come back to our true self, which is where we came from, which is source. We all have source within us. If you call that spirit, God, that is within everybody. We are never separate from that. But while we are here, when we lose all this 3D external nonsense that is only for the experience for soul evolution here, and we lose attachment to that, then we can open up these energy centers that allow this information to flow to us and to flow within. We are given hints of much of this throughout our life. I know I have been very open to this information since I was very young, and that doesn't mean that I did not have a ton of work to do and a lot of experiences. The more difficult experiences we have are often for faster soul growth. So everybody is here for soul growth, just some more than others. Not everybody is on the spiritual path, but I do find that the people who are become interested in, or are already aware that they have past lives or are on the spiritual journey are going to already be more evolved souls, because we are the ones that tap into this information because we have done this before, or because it has to do with our soul purpose. So I will get to the part of what happens with these crystals that did activate a piece of my past for me, but there is so much more to this story that I don't know that I even feel comfortable telling, because there are so many different pieces of my life and different soulmates and different experiences that end up centering or are all parts of this story in this time period. It is absolutely magical, but I don't know that I feel comfortable doing that, at least not all right now. So fast forward a few weeks from when I initially went into this shop, and I was hiking one day, and when I was on my way back, I drove near that road in uptown Sedona. So I was deciphering if I should stop in that shop and say hello to her on my way out for some reason. And I decided against that. I just wanted to go home, but something made me still turn down that road. And I parked and I walked in the shop, and she said, "Hi, sorry, we're closed." And she looked up and recognized me and called me in and told me that somebody actually had just left the shop. They had been in there that day, a couple from Florida, and the man happened to want to buy the 3 large main crystals that she had just shown me, and we went through this whole episode of, right? So I happened to stop in there that same day, and she called me in the back and said they have, this man had purchased them. They were holding them until he came and picked them up the next day. So I know there is a man who has them in Florida, and she did have me. She suggested that I take pictures and video these crystals so I could really take that in, which was really very nice of her. And I don't know that I would post them on here. I don't know if he actually did pay for them at this time, or if they were purchased so that I would feel comfortable posting them on here. But because these are activating in a sense, and maybe activating to others, I actually would love to share this on here. However, I somewhat recently had to reboot my phone, and not all of my pictures have uploaded. So I did look for them. I am not finding them right now. If I do end up finding those, or they end up uploading back onto my phone, I may post again later. But the thing with crystals and the Akash is that, like crystals, we are also like stories that, build up over time. And these crystals could have been through, I don't know how long a crystal like this is. I don't know how many lifetimes these crystals in particular held, let's put it that way. But we are very much like crystals in the sense that in our DNA, right, we take on all of, and I don't believe it's only our DNA. This is our soul as well, right? But our soul is connected to God. We all come from source originally, and then all of these stories come out and form the Akash, which is the cloud. And we have especially our DNA from our ancestors and our experiences in our past lives. And this is a this creates stories and books and timelines and an entire library, right? So that is the Akash, and the crystals hold much of what was going on during a time period then, and they also hold a frequency, just like the stories that we accumulate is what our frequency holds. So the DNA that we're born with, at the time we're born with the name we're born with, in the place that we are born with, this gives us our own particular frequency that nobody else on this planet has. And this is part of the big story. So the stories we tell ourselves, the words we speak to ourselves, the emotions we feel affect our DNA. And this gets passed on and shared with the universe as well. So this is how we know that every single person's part is important on this universe, but also we can tap into this information when we are willing to unhinge and willing to let go of the story of only this single timeline of what happened with an ex or the family we were born into. When we can let go of these things that are dragging us down into only this experience right at this lifetime, this is when the gates and the doors open into this is the access, this is the all access pass to so much more of what is going on in this universe, and really even other ones as well. So in order to open up to this information, we have to have clear channels, and we have to remove the blockages that exist and we have within us, and the stories that we have accumulated that really do not make us who we are. That is not who we are on a soul level. These stories were brought to us and into our life for soul growth. So perception is everything in this lifetime, and how we look at things and how we view things. And if we are playing victim, if we are not healing, or just perception is everything. How we view this. If we want to look at it in a small thing, like we were brought here and imprisoned and all this, not good vibe, that's what I'm considering victimization. This really can change the direction and the vibration, the direction of our life and the vibration that we hold. So the higher vibration that we have, like a high frequency, a very high vibrational crystal, really holds a lot of power, right? This can benefit and be very healing. And we all have this light within us. We are all born with this higher vibrational frequency, and we experience all these things throughout our life. And this very 3D earth plane that can drag this frequency to a lower frequency than what it needs to be. And when we can heal this, we have to actually go through the motions and experiences we have had and the emotions that have changed us. When we hold emotions, if say we experience something more traumatic or painful, etc., this changes the frequency and the energy center and what's going on with our body and the cellular structure, etc. We have to undo that damage in order to release that baggage, to be free and light enough to travel in this lifetime without the burdens and the baggage. So all of our experiences, the people we come across, the things that we do, the lessons that we learn, all of that is for soul evolution, and ultimately the frequency that we hold navigates how well we travel, not only through this life, but we also lose that false identity of who we are not and that brings us into who we really are. And then our soul becomes far more advanced, and we can see things in a different light and access the places and the things that we need to and want to, that we were meant to, and what we came here for, like the game of Zelda. But otherwise we continue to get stuck on level 4 or level 18. We can't continue on the other levels until we have passed that level and defeated that battle of whatever keeps us in that cycle or whatever it is that is holding us back. So the idea is to remove blockages so we can get to the next level. So activations are a great way to do this as we're going through life. This is why we cannot take things so personal when we have experiences with people. Sometimes this is to unlock something within us. Sometimes you have to go through not so good things, like in Mortal Kombat, when the guy's powers did not become, he couldn't unleash his inner beast until something made him mad enough. We have to go through things, sometimes not good things, to unlock these. And sometimes we come across good, people or places or situations that activate us in is what seems to be a more positive way. But in the end, no matter the experience, if it seems negative or if it feels positive, either way, it is to further advance us to the next level of where we're trying to go. So definitely something to keep in mind with these activations. Everything we have learned from our past lives helps us in this life. And that goes the same with the experiences in this life. So it really is a magical world depending on how you want to view it. But this is a big time period of a lot of shifting. So on a collective level, we all have a lot to release and undo. And that is also what is happening with our society and the structure of it, right? So it is going to be a longer process, but in the end, it is going to be worth it. So the idea is to release and let go of what is no longer serving us so we can continue on the journey and to the next level. So I think that is going to be it for today of this activating crystal journey. There are many stories within crystals. I'm not sure I went to this earlier in the video, but I would like to say, as I did say before, I do not do a lot of work with crystals typically at all, really. If this is something you are unsure of working with, crystals hold energy as well. And if you are not going to regularly cleanse them and etc., then, they do hold energy. Entities attach to objects in general. So any energies, not all crystals absorb energy, but the majority of them do. This is why you do have to regularly cleanse them. In my eyes, as I was saying before, if I did say this in this video, is that everything that comes from God, just like discerning what is true or not true about past lives, etc., everything comes from within. So anything external, whether it is a form of divination or information, etc., to me can definitely be deceiving or deceitful. Everything you need is within, no matter what. You have all the power. So if you are giving your power to external objects, then, it's just something I would say to be cautious of. And definitely if you are looking to manipulate energy, everything that we do, or karma legitimately means action. So anything we take action on is returned to us, and we do not always control really how it is returned. So when using objects of divination, to each their own, zero judgment here whatsoever. The crystal I was buying was to chime a particular tuning fork. Divination, to me, objects can be used for enhancement, such as we can use makeup to enhance our appearance, but you can totally change your appearance if you wanted to, and that would be very deceitful, right? So that is kind of how you view using objects for divination. Sometimes, sure, it isn't really necessary. To each their own, no judgment. But if you are questioning whether or not they are safe, I see a lot of people saying that buying crystals brought negativity into their life. The intention and the belief behind that can do that as well. So if used properly and you know what you're doing and you're keeping them cleansed and for healing purposes, like I said, to each their own. It's not for me to say what anybody else is doing. That is only my opinion on that, but I did want to add that in there. I will catch you guys on the next video.